Now, another question, I guess, that Susan had was about the transparency, lock transparency, which is something I kind of use often. So for the transparency, what we use it for is that if you have something, because you don't need to use the lock transparency all the time. It's kind of a quick way to change something if you have some transparency, basically, because it won't work if you have a JPEG and a layer that has no transparency. But in this case, for example, I have this flare. This flare has a transparent background. I just put the black so I can actually see it. It's much easier. If I want to change the color, I might be tempted to use my magic wand, choose, for example, opacity, and or actually I can use all opaque or whatever. I think I'll use with opacity. And I can select, and it won't select everything. If I increase the tolerance, it might select it all. But then at this point, if I am to flood fill that with a different color, let's say I want to have a pink flare, the selection that is made with any of the selection tools, it's like all or nothing, and you really lose the effect. However, if I lock the transparency and then I will select all, now if I flood fill, it will fill each pixel by the same level of transparency or opacity as that it has initially. So if here it's more opaque, the pink is going to be more opaque. If here it's more translucent, the opacity is less, it's going to respect that. So I'm going to click and you can see the effect. I can deselect. One thing you can be curious, if you use the eyedropper, you can look at the opacity. I think yeah, right now it says use all layer. But if I'm only looking at this one layer, you can see the opacity, it says 95%. If I go here, 34%. If I go here, it's 9%. So this is the kind of thing that you cannot do just with a selection and a flood fill or a brush, because the selection selects either it is selected or the pixel is not selected. It's an all or nothing. And that is why the lock transparency forces the program to respect that. If it was 90% transparent or 90% opaque, I should say, it will stay 90% opaque. If it was 32% opaque, it's going to stay 32% opaque. So that is why I will use the lock transparency. And what's interesting is that very often when we are creating shapes, especially if there are not straight lines, it's taking a while. I'm just going to make smaller. So let's say that I'm making a circle out of a preset shape. Especially if I have my anti-alias. If my shape is small, I will see a little bit more of those faint pixels on the edge. So let's say that I'm going to convert this to a raster. If I am to use my magic wand, again, it's going to select every pixel that is not opaque due to the selection here. And if I want to fill it, you see how the edges are really pixelated. So if I want to keep those feathered edges to give a nice round, I will lock my transparency and I can click on it and you can see everything is going to be replaced by pink and it's going to look better than if I had used my magic wand. Hey there! I hope you found this information helpful. If you're curious to dive deeper and explore more about PaintShop Pro, we've got a wealth of resources waiting for you in our membership area. There, you'll find in-depth classes, workshops, Q&A sessions, and much more to help you enhance your PaintShop Pro and digital scrapbooking skills. Feel free to check it out. The link is in the video description below. Thanks for watching and see you in the campus!